Okay, first I'd like to just apologise. You'll hear some noise in the background. We're having solar panels put on. But now to the topic at hand. I've just watched Errant Signal's video of keep your politics out of my video games. Now, first of all, that's wrong. It's not my video games, it's keep politics out of review of video games should be the actual topic of the video. Because in it you say that as games become a more artistic art form, which I entirely agree, you know, games do become a more artistic art form, do they, you know, deserve, you know, proper legitimate criticism? Yes, they do. But here's the thing. We want reviewers who are going to be objective. Like, you say, oh, people went to hell on Roger Ebert. Did you even look at how Roger Ebert, after he got all that criticism, looked at people who had not flamed him but actually had arguments and looked at those arguments? And then from those arguments he didn't fully change his mind, but he now came to see that he might actually be wrong, not at this point in time, but in the future. You see, when you get people who bring their politics, they bring their agenda, and as a result you get people like, I don't want to bring her up, but I'm going to have to, Anita Sarkeesian. She brings her feminist viewpoint, and then she brings her feminist agenda to it. So by proxy, it doesn't matter, you know, everything's sexist. And that's what I find so bad with your video. I agree that games do deserve criticism, and there are some brilliant games out there that use, you know, political things, like you bring up the BioShock race thing. That's a brilliant point, and I think that's a fantastic point of view, and they did it very, very well, and they handled it very well, because if they hadn't, then it would be absolutely appalling and people would be calling it racist. I don't think you'd see a single gamer trying to defend it. But then you come into another point where, I don't know if you've seen in the comments, you have a guy who says he's a game reviewer, and he says he's played, recently, he's reviewed Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines. And I like that game as well. I think it's one of the best RPGs there is. And he goes to say, oh, you know, I love Bloodlines, but, you know, now that I look at it now, I see how sexist it is. And this is the problem, because when you get people like Anita Sarkeesian telling people are sexist, it has a knock-on effect to these other people who go, of course. They don't even look at maybe objectively what she is, and this is a down point from the reviewers, because when you get objective reviewers, they also point out what's bad with the arguments that other people are making. If we had proper game reviewers, they'd be pointing out that Anita Sarkeesian isn't a proper video game journalist or critic. She takes it from a feminist viewpoint, and therefore you should take her argument with a pinch of salt, because she's bringing her agenda to it. And I know exactly, I've looked at his thing and I tracked down his article on it, and he is pissed off that apparently at one point you go to a strip club that's owned by vampires, and that how misogynistic it is to have this strip club when you can be a female vampire and you can go there yourself and have a lap dance from one of the female vampires. Not only the fact that, you know, this is actual some people's jobs, and maybe the women that do this don't do it because they are forced to do it, but because they actually enjoy it. Heaven forbid we should bring that argument into it, but then that's a point for another time. But you see where, this is why we need objectivism more in our gaming critics. If they want to bring in their agenda, then they should state that they are going to bring in their agenda, and they should state, I am X, so I am looking at it from this point of view. If you're going to be an objective game reviewer, you should take your politics and put it to one side while you review the game. If you want to come back and do a review for your side of it, then by all means come back, do your review of your libertarian standpoint or feminist standpoint, but say, I am doing it from this standpoint. Otherwise you are not being objective, because otherwise you start to look for things that match your viewpoint or don't agree with your viewpoint.